Okay, I want to go back and kind of review the last session with you with a little bit more clarity and perhaps some ways to help bring to focus the conundrum of this whole issue concerning Adam and Eve and the original sin and all of that, because it's really fundamental and it's really important to revisit this and rethink it and consider it in real logical terms. God did not give us a spirit of fear, but of power and of love and of sound mind. And for me, the story of Adam and Eve doesn't compute, at least not with all the facts that I'm digging up and looking at in light of the way I've been taught. And perhaps you're going to find that it's true for you too. We're told that death passed upon all men who did not commit the sin of Adam. You're going, well, you mean all that they did and all the calamity that's come on the world, especially today. I mean, look at the wars in the last couple hundred years, world wars, the horrible things that are happening currently in the political world, the insanity of this whole abortion thing, and the people that are besieging our borders and around the world, other countries upset, this whole Islamic invasion. This was all loosed upon the world long ago as a result of what Adam and Eve did. And you're going, wow, all this calamity. And it's not just our time, it goes all the way back in history. You can see all these things happening, the famines, diseases, earthquakes, all of the calamities that have come upon the world, the murders, the decapitations by the Muslims, the slave trade, the sex trade, all of these wicked things were let loose. The Pandora's box was opened by Adam and Eve. And yet we find that the scripture says we did not commit the sin of Adam. That sin that he committed with Eve in the Garden of Eden when they partook of something they weren't supposed to. That's what opened the door. But it says we weren't participants in that sin. And yet all of this has come upon us, and it just doesn't seem fair to me that this has happened to everyone on the earth. It's everywhere on the earth. You know, when I was a kid, I found out that my grandfather, Herman Klein, who was born about 1880, ran away from home when he was 13, and he joined the British Army, and he ended up fighting in the Boer War in South Africa. Actually, he didn't fight. He was actually a horse thief. Now, the people that he stole horses from had children, and they had children, and suppose the children of the children traced the lineage of Herman Klein and found out he had a son named Henry Klein, and Henry had a son named Ken Klein, me. And now 100 years have gone by. It's 2019. And these people from South Africa, these descendants of the people that were the ones whose horses were stolen by my grandfather, came to America and they said, hey, Ken Klein, your grandfather stole 10 horses from us, and we want you to pay us back. You have to pay it back now. And I'm going, well, why? You know what? I have no idea what you're talking about. I wasn't there when he stole them, and I didn't steal them. I didn't choose to do that. So why are you requiring that I pay for the horses that he stole? It's kind of like the argument today in the Congress in the United States. There needs to be reparations for the black people today because our forefathers enslaved them. And so there needs to be payback. And people today need to pay it back. And that's a source of a lot of white guilt today. We got to pay it back, $50,000 for every black person. Well, first of all, for me, I wasn't even here. I was, my grandparents were from Poland and Hungary. So I'm not even an American in the deep-rooted sense. So why should I have to pay back anything anyway? But that's not the point. The point is, like, how is a person's free will involved in that determination? And the answer is it's not. But that's the same way pastors and teachers of the scriptures say that we're guilty of Adam's sin, therefore we have to pay back with our lives, and if we don't pay it back right, well then, you're going to go to hell. So they don't take into consideration that later in the Old Testament says, the fathers eat sour grapes and the children's teeth are set on edge. That's what was going on back there. Like, in other words, whatever the fathers do is going to be required of the children. But that would no longer be applicable. And this is in the Old Testament. No, everybody will be judged on his own merits. Where you say, well, are you a sinner? I go, yeah. Why? Well, because the nature of Adam passed upon me, but I didn't commit his sin. I didn't make the sin of Adam, but still I acquired his nature. So I can't help but not sin. Thank you very much. So we find out that truth because the law tells us, love God with all your heart, with all your soul, love your neighbors yourself, thou shalt not murder, thou shalt keep the Sabbath, blah, 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 thou shalt not commit adultery. And all of the 10 Commandments show us that when we look at that man alive, I've broken all of these. I am a sinner. And so the law defines our inner nature, that we have a nature that's prone to this. So therefore, because now our nature is set this way, because we do those things, therefore there's a penalty upon us. But if I'm predisposed to do this, what does God expect anyway? I mean, what's the point here? You lock them up, make them pay. It's not fair, really. I don't think it's fair. And maybe you think I'm a heretic for saying that, but there's something about this that doesn't seem on face value, the way it's taught at church at least, that it's fair. Doesn't seem fair to me. And so why should I pay for the horses? That's not fair. So why should I pay for Adam's sin? He did it. I didn't choose, but you were in Adam. Yeah, but it says I didn't commit the sin of Adam. His nature came upon me, and I am born in iniquity. I conceived in iniquity. I had no choice in the matter. So why are we threatened with hell if we don't accept God's remedy when we had no choice but not to sin? We had to sin. It's the way it is. And of course, God gave the answer in his son, Jesus. But why, how and why did this all come upon us? And if we think of the original sin and Adam and Eve's story, it just seems like a fable. Like, it just really happened. How could this be so? Rational minds can't make sense of it. And I agree with the rational minds. It doesn't make sense, at least not in the way it's been taught to us. So I wanted to lay that out again so we really think through it and ask the hard questions, because the Lord isn't embarrassed and he's not hard-pressed, and his arm isn't so short that he can't answer us. He can answer us and give us a big picture. So I wanted to lay that out again for you to think about, because many of you that are even contemplating getting out of the boat of religious traditionalism, doctrines that we've learned from the past, all kinds of doctrines that need repair or need to be explained in more detail, are hard to let go of because we're comfortable with them. We've lived with them. And we don't want to leave them. And so when we talk about getting out of the boat, living supernaturally, people are all gung-ho until they're confronted with the things they hold near and dear and are like the boat that the disciples sat in, where only one wanted to get out and walk with Jesus supernaturally. So if you're willing to make that step, I want to walk with you in that and help you see what I've come to see.